Vanderbilt Alert Podcast.
Welcome! I am so excited to be doing this. This is officially episode 1. All right. I hope I'm not having problems with going live. I don't know. Like I'm supposed to be live on X, YouTube, and Instagram right now. I don't know for sure if that's happening or not. It's telling me it is, but I don't actually know because I have a little alert over here and I don't know what it means. So we'll figure this out, as time goes forward. I'm brand new to this streaming platform. I'm brand new to podcasting. And I already did episode 1. I technically recorded it but I pre-recorded it from like my phone, and then I was going to edit it and drop all the video in that I wanted to talk about. But then I went to edit it and it was a nightmare. And I was like, yeah, I can't do this. So that it's not going to work that way. I was like, I have to be able to go live this way. I can drop in the videos that I want to show, all of the pictures and things that I want to talk about. And then I don't have to mess with hours worth of editing, because I did do that episode 1. And then it didn't work out. It somehow zoomed in on my face for the bulk of the whole, it was like 1 hour long, and like 40 minutes of it was like zoomed in on my face, not right. And it's just too hard. Things don't really flow. If I want to talk about something, it's kind of nice to have it like in my face. So my plan was to talk, do episode 1 right after the election, because there was so much to talk about, right? I'm like, we're 2 weeks away from it or whatever. And I really did want to talk sooner, but that's okay. Well, there's actually more to discuss now that since I waited for a little bit. So I am still going to talk about some of the things, some of the aftermath of the election, which, again, I talked about in my introductory video. Obviously, I'm a conservative. So if you're a liberal, like, you're not going to like me, and that's okay. You're welcome to still tune in if you want to, but I don't think you're going to have a good time, and that's okay. So anyway, I will talk a little bit about some of the aftermath, and actually, I'm just going to jump into it now because I do have a lot that I want to cover today. I don't know. I'm going to shoot for an hour. It may go a little bit longer. We'll see. The first thing that I wanted to look at is actually a map of the election results. And the reason why is because now there was less of this than I expected. I expected a lot of liberals to be like, this election was stolen. Let's do a recount right now. There have been a couple of people that have done that, but not really as much as I expected to see. However, this picture is going to be huge, but that's okay. This is a map of the country broken down by counties. And if you look at it, it's really interesting because almost the whole thing is red. Like, look, it's almost all red. So, I mean, when they say there are no blue states, only blue counties and cities, like that's actually like legit. So look over here in like on the West Coast, which on the, if you watch live the election results, literally at one point, Oregon and Washington and California were all trending red at one point during the day. So even that area, and then a lot of the New England states, same thing. I'm going to hide this real quick. And even Virginia has been blue for how long? Virginia was like teetering. Like we didn't know if it was going to go red or blue. And then actually, now that the election is over, there were in excess of like 85,000 extra votes in Virginia. So over, you have like a certain amount of votes that are expected to come in, right? Based on how many people have registered and whatnot. So if you have 85,000 over that expected number, that's obviously not fair and square. So that happened in Virginia. And then it happened in a handful of other, in some New England states, different numbers. And I'm not going to go into all that, but there were some shenanigans, just not enough to change the outcome. And I don't know about you guys, like fellow conservatives. I know obviously I watched the election happening the day of. I stayed up till like 3 a.m. because I was like, I'm not going to bed. Because what's going to happen is like last time you go to bed, everything's good. And then you wake up and you're like, what happened? So I just like didn't want to go to bed. So I stayed up and my husband and I were watching. And yeah, like you felt good the night of, but I feel like since I was so tired, it was the middle of the night and I had to go to work the next day. I kind of like it didn't really sink in what just happened. So the next day, like that morning, I'm like at work and I was just like, man, like, like it soaked in at that point. And I was like, I feel so good. I feel like there is something to look forward to now. It's like a weight lifted. Everything felt, the best way I could describe it was everything felt clean. And like you had something to look forward to. And I felt like running, not really physically, because I do hate to run, but I felt like running like in life. Like go do something you never would have seen yourself doing. Like it's like ripe with opportunity is how I felt after the election results. So, it was a really good feeling. And then now too, knowing that not only do we have the presidency, but the House and the Senate as well, that would not have happened in 2020. So it's kind of like a perfect, I mean, there was 4 years of like struggle. And this is one thing that I hate about it. So we can fix a lot of the problems that happened over the last 4 years, right? But there are some things that can't be undone. For example, when we had that unsecure border and you had a flood of illegal immigrants coming in, a lot of which were criminals and terrorists and whatnot, how many people were murdered, assaulted, and murdered because of our unsecure border? I don't know how many, but I do know of several cases off the top of my head. Those parents and families don't get their children back. So it's like you can undo a lot of the bad policies that happened over the last, in the last administration, the current one still, but you can't undo everything. They don't get those people back. So that's the importance of not having trash policies or people in power that clearly hate the country and have an agenda to destroy it. Why? I don't know. I don't know why. I'm not even going to get into why I think why, but at least going forward, even though we can't give those people back, we can make sure that doesn't happen to anyone else. So let's move on a little bit. The next thing I want to show you is this, which is interesting. If Kamala Harris had won, she would have made voter ID illegal across all states, and this would have been the last real election in the U.S. Donald Trump and Elon Musk literally saved America from becoming a one-party deep blue state. That is so true because she won all of the states that don't require voter ID. Isn't that interesting? Kind of just like makes you wonder, scratch your head, which I can't say is surprising. So I have some other things to talk about. I love this right here. They popped in like the Avengers. Look at the team. Look at the team that Trump put together. Like you've got 4 former Democrats in this picture. Okay? None of which did you ever think would be on a Republican ticket. He put together the craziest team, and it's super exciting because it's not like the Republican Party because they suck too. They're like, oh, we gotta stop this. They don't do anything. They're trash. So I'm just like I'm super excited to see what's gonna happen. Moving on. What is this? Election fraud. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. Minnesota election judge arrested for allowing 11 unregistered voters to cast ballots in the 2024 election. That's no surprise. I'm sure it was much more than that in a lot of other states. Minnesota was also one of the ones that, even though that's Tim Walz's home state, that was teetering, like going red there for a while. We didn't really know. We got a liberal meltdown here. Yeah, can you guess why she's crying? I have a good idea, and that nose ring is kind of it's the haircut too. It just kind of gives it away. So the funny thing about this is I love the fact that I'm a woman because I can talk about things that men are supposed to, unless you have a uterus, you can't have an opinion on this. Well, I do have one, so I can. So I love it how like the day after the election, like so many females are like took to social media. I can't believe I went to bed like this and then I woke up with no rights. Okay, what rights did you lose? Did you wake up the next morning and to a phone call from your boss saying you can't work anymore because you're a woman? No, that didn't happen. I would love for that to happen personally, but it didn't. Was your driver's license taken away because you're a woman? No, that didn't happen either. Again, that would actually be a good thing because women can't drive and there would just not be car wrecks anymore if we didn't let them drive, including me. So, there are no rights that were actually taken away. People were just being crybabies. And I know what it is they're upset about. It's abortion. And this is what they never want to talk about is that it's Roe v. Wade that they keep going back to. That was unconstitutional to begin with. Okay. It should have always been a state issue. All right. So all Trump did the first time was give it back to the states where it should have always been. And if you don't like how your state votes on it, then go to a state where you can get as many abortions as you want, because apparently you are hell-bent on using abortion as birth control, which is really messed up. But I also like too how they're spinning stories like, if you have an ectopic pregnancy, like good luck, you're just gonna basically die. That's not true. I actually saw a story just a week or so ago. A Columbus news station put it out, how some Texas mom, she was like 18 or something, she went to the ER because she was having some kind of issues and they didn't like treat her and she died. And so they're like, all the, everyone in the comments is like mad. This is because of the, the right wing, like pro-life laws. That has nothing to do with pro-life laws. First of all, if you go to the hospital with an issue and they don't help you, that's malpractice, and that can be a lawsuit. That has zero to do with how the state voted on the laws, because speaking of that, literally look at this. Look. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. Sorry. I have one in here somewhere. No, that's not it either. Is this it? No. All right. Well, I don't know where it is. Anyway, basically, it's a news article that, you know what? I have a video for it. Let's watch the video. And this should answer anyone's questions if they think they cannot get care.
Where women face prosecution for having an abortion.
No.
Are there any states that criminalize miscarriage?
No.
Or that care for a miscarriage?
No.
Are there any states that criminalize removing an ectopic pregnancy?
No.
Are there any states that prohibit life-saving care for the mother?
No.
Are there any states where women have to be actively dying for a doctor to be able to act for her care?
No.
There's been a lot of rhetoric in this that I'm concerned pushes people away from getting access to health care. Vice President Harris, in a speech recently, said that women were being arrested and facing prosecution for experiencing miscarriages. Ms. Hackler, do you know of a single instance where a woman has been arrested for having a miscarriage or getting health care for that?
No, treatment for miscarriage is allowed under the law, and there have been instances where I think that one example of that that's been pointed to is misleading, because the woman, I think she was in Ohio, the charges against her were not abortion related, and so it's misleading to use that as an example.
It's not only misleading, but it scares women away from getting access to health care, and it leads women to not go get healthcare treatment when they desperately need it.
Okay, so there you go. Like it said, that's the clarification you need. There's no like not getting care when you need it, and miscarriages happen naturally. You're not gonna like go to prison if you have a natural miscarriage. That's stupid, but that's the story that they spin to try to get you up in arms, and that's what they were running with. Really, for whatever reason, it's white women that are they're one issue voters, but they're so obsessed with abortion that they'll literally like, I don't care if this person's the devil, I will vote for them as long as I can make sure I get an abortion. Literally, what's wrong with you? Speaking of that, there's this. The best thing that's ever happened to the gene pool, that is 100% true. God willing, they actually stick to it, because my goodness, with the what that's going to do for future generations is going to be amazing. So, I have more I could talk about politics, maybe a couple things to read, just aftermath of the election. Not that one. Let me see. Yeah, pretty much. Trump says make America great again. Democrats say no. RFK Jr. says make America healthy again. Democrats say no. Tulsi says make American intelligence effective again. Democrats say no. Hegseth says make our American military strong again. Democrats say no. Maybe it's just me, but I'm beginning to think the Democrats are no longer a legitimate American political party. That's true, because the days are over when you could have almost voted either way, but they have gone so insane, shifted so far, that's why so many people that were lifelong blue voters were taking to social media and saying, listen, I'm voting for Trump because Democrats have just gone crazy, which they have. What else do I have here? Yeah. Liberal chicks are vowing to stay away from men, refusing marriage, dating sex, and childbearing completely, calling it 4B. Looks like we just solved the abortion crisis and made it exceptionally easy for men to avoid dating crazy psychopaths. Winning. That's true. Everybody wins in that situation. Literally everybody. What's this one? Trump has achieved the highest raw popular vote count of any Republican presidential candidate in history, according to projections of the 2024 election. See, this just goes back to what I was saying when I was showing you the map, how many states or how many counties went red. And this is the thing too, is like people were saying that, like for the ones that were saying this is rigged, there's no way anyone likes Trump, blah, blah, blah. They would never vote for this. I think we need to recount. No, like literally the numbers speak for themselves, and it is a completely different vibe. Like 2016, like literally, I'll play this other video of all the athletes that are like doing the Trump dance. So in 2016, if you supported Trump, you kind of like felt like you had to be like secretive about it, kind of like, like you may like him, but you just kind of don't talk about it. There's like ridicule, and basically people call you like a hateful, intolerant bigot and all this stuff. None of which is true, but that's completely different now. And so I I don't know, like it's just it's even CNN. Oh my gosh, the mass media who was murdering him. Sorry, I might get kicked off YouTube for saying that. They're communist anyway. So they're destroying him, complete character assassination. Literally, people tried to kill him. And even they started to soften up. CNN, who's been out, had it out for him. Even they were softening up. ABC, I saw ABC like starting to switch. Literally, that's how bad Kamala Harris was as a candidate, which no one wanted in the first place. And that's how much the tide has turned, that people were like, you know what, I'm sick of this. I want Trump. I'm going to interrupt real quick. I see my thanks, Andy, for watching. But also, Braden and Lindy, yes, it is my nephew's birthday. Ian Choyden Doyden Starkey, happy 17th birthday, bro. I hope it's the best. I saw him at the gym this morning, and it was good. Dude's in there working his jacked side delts. It's a good time. Anyway, back to my, where'd my things go? Oh, shoot. How do I do it? Okay. I don't know what happened, guys. Okay, there we go. Anyway, the video of the athletes. Okay, you're on a national stage and you do not care that people know you support Trump. So let me, I don't know how long this is. Let's watch it. Yeah. Okay, as fun as that is, I'm not going to watch like 11 minutes of it. I just can't. But I am really glad to see that. I heard the NFL is going to try to like potentially ban that, which you do whatever you want, like that, whatever. Everyone hates the NFL anyway. Well, I mean, if you're a Browns fan, you do, which I am. Speaking of the Browns, where is this thing that makes fun of them? It's unfortunate to be a Browns fan. We have the Steelers tomorrow, and someone was telling my husband, they're like, you guys are definitely going to win that game. I'm like, I don't know, like if you dropped a bunch of acid or why you would think that, because the Browns can't beat teams they should beat, much less teams they shouldn't beat. Anyway, I think most Browns fans can figure out what this means. If you have to think about it for a minute, I get it. I showed this to my husband and he got it in like 20 seconds. And it took me a minute too, but I was like, okay, I understand. So just one before I die, which is obviously talking about a Super Bowl. I doubt it'll happen. I wish it would, but I doubt it will, because the Browns are cursed. They have to be. All right. So I could go on and on and on about the election and about politics and stuff like that. But I don't want to like do too much in one show. Speaking of shows, I am super excited for episode 2. I already know what I'm going to talk about. And like, it's not new information, but there's like, I guess there's constant new information about it coming out, because it's a growing phenomena, I guess I should say. But why I'm excited to talk about it is I think a lot of people, at least the general public in America, if you're aware of it, you kind of like brush it off as something like, I don't like think that's real or whatever. But it is. And I'm super excited to talk about it. And the reason I'm like not in on it, but like aware of it, is I've been following one man for 10 years who I would consider to be an expert on it. He's a filmmaker, over 30 films. He's written a bunch of books. And I'm not going to give it away, but I am super excited to talk about it. I'm probably not even going to wait a whole week to do episode 2 because I'm like stoked. Anyway, back to politics. I have not watched this yet, so if there's like cuss words, I'm sorry.
They arrest Jeffrey Epstein and then you kill him. Just like that. You bribe the guards, you turn off the cameras, and then you choke him to death. Will you be choking Puff Daddy this time around?
Right.
So how are you planning on doing it?
Well, I wanted to choke him at night and make it look like a suicide, just like Jeffrey Epstein. But then I realized Puffy might actually enjoy that. So, you know, maybe he slips on the shower. Maybe he chokes with a piece of fried chicken. I still haven't decided yet.
Oh my goodness. Who made that? If that doesn't kick me off YouTube, get me kicked off YouTube, I don't actually know what will, but that's hilarious. If you have like time on your hands and you want to just do a deep dive of the number of Clinton associates that have hung themselves, especially in the same manner, like somehow managing to hang themselves on like a doorknob, which I don't even know how that happens. It's worth your time to look into. Let's watch this one. I don't know that I've watched this, so we'll watch it all together.
This is exactly what we need, and it's exactly what he's going to do. We've got confirmation now that he's going to declare a national emergency on immigration and will
Sorry, just a minute. This kid looks like he's like 11 and somehow went to college like 8 years early.
employ military assets for mass deportation. Nobody cares more about our national security and our sovereignty than Donald Trump. And as he even said, this isn't a question of a price tag. You cannot put a price on national security. This has to happen. They let in 10 million people in the last 4 years. We have no choice. We will enforce our laws. If you're here illegally, better start packing.
Okay, great job, whoever that child is. Going back to the border. I guess I don't know why anybody would oppose a secure border unless you're just that detached like from reality and it's not going to affect you. I literally saw a video of like a mayor or like maybe a governor, I don't remember which state, and she was basically saying like she's not going to cooperate with the mass deportation and like kind of like in a threatening manner, like you're going to have to go through me first. First of all, okay, that's not hard to get by you, but I don't know why anybody would not want this country to be safe, and especially when you have heard of the violent crimes that have been committed, why would you oppose that? And it's also not like there was another interview I saw where someone was like, is there any way to deport people without separating families? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. You just take everybody together. Like, it's not hard. You don't have to separate families. And even if you do, you are here illegally. Like, sorry, we'll do our best to do it in a humane manner. But like a lot of them came in and they didn't act in a humane manner. So at this point, like it should have been enough with like the Colorado apartment complex that was taken over, and that idiot lady, whoever she was, she's old as dirt. And JD Vance went on, some like TV lady, and she's like, they've been saying there are a bunch of apartment complexes that have been taken over. It's actually only one. And JD Vance is like, do you hear yourself? One is one too many. There should not be a single apartment complex that's taken over by illegal migrants. These are American citizens. Like, what are you talking about? There's only been one. Like, how are you trying to brush it over with that statement? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, which is for me too. And I could go on all day about that. What is it? It's 8:23. Actually, I'm not out of time yet. And not even close to out of time. So we can talk about a lot of stuff. One of the things I wanted to throw in here was a little bit about getting away from politics and like the heavier hitting stuff. I want to talk about fitness, mostly because I've been a gym goer for well over a decade now, and it's one interest of mine, but it's also part of the purpose of this podcast is to drop something encouraging into somebody. So like whether you're a beginner or a seasoned gym goer, or even if it's not so much going to the gym, but just taking better care of yourself, there are a lot of very simple things you can do. even if you're staying at home, and that's one good thing that came out of COVID is you found out how many things you can do at home and still take care of yourself. I'm telling you, like when I had to learn to do like body weight workouts and use resistance bands and weird stuff like fill a duffel bag with books and do front squats and like all kinds of stuff, you'd be amazed what you can do at home. So if you do have like gym anxiety, that's no excuse to not exercise and take care of yourself. So that's one of the things that I want to kind of drop into this podcast. But I also, for those of you who know who Joey Swoll is, he is like doing the Lord's work in the fitness community because what he does is people will, so going back to like when I first started going to the gym, did some people take like pictures? Yeah, that's fine. And in fact, I would say if you are doing any kind of lifestyle change, whether it's just diet or just exercise or drinking more water, moving, being intentional, like taking the stairs more, walking more steps, whatever it is, I encourage everybody to take pictures because oftentimes you can't tell when you look at yourself every day, you can't always tell if there's a difference in your body, right? But if you take a picture when you start and then you look 4 weeks later and you're like, wow, okay, I do see a big difference in the pictures. Also, pay attention to how your clothes fit. And if you want to get more in depth, do, measurements on your own body. But pictures are one of the easiest ways. I would not worry so much about what the scale says because if you are putting on muscle, you might even in some cases see the scale go up. And that's discouraging to people. They're like, man, I've been working out for like a month or more, and I barely see any difference in the scale. Don't look at the scale. That's only going to like discourage you. Eventually, yeah, you can get some information from it, but I would not use that to gauge your progress. So definitely take before and after pictures. But anyway, going back to Joey Swoll. So it wasn't really a thing for people to have tripods or even film themselves so much in the gym until like, I don't know if it was TikTok that like made this popular. Thankfully, I don't live in an area where this is really a thing. I've seen like 2 tripods in my gym, and both of the people are cool. So it's like, there's, not really anything negative there. But sometimes when you see these big like commercial gyms in like big cities and whatnot, people have their tripods, or even if they don't have a tripod, but they're filming on their phone, they turn into the biggest entitled douchebags, like unreal. Think they own the gym, are mad at you if you even walk into the frame. And also to go beyond that, the girls that will like intentionally like set it up. And then of course they're always working lower body, like glutes, whatever. It's never just like a bicep, tricep workout or whatever. It's like always lower body. And then they're like, oh my gosh, look at this creep looking at me in my video. And then it goes viral. And then you have the freaking hero, Joey Swoll, jump in and absolutely roast them for being stupid. So here's an example of a lady that was just being like, if you could be a female douchebag, I'd say that's what she was being. And then Joey Swoll like comes in to save the day. So let's watch.
So you say on this video, wait for the idiot walking past. So let me get this straight. You're the one that puts your phone on the floor in a walkway at the gym in front of all these machines, and she's just minding her own business, going about her workout, and she's the idiot? Seriously? Not to mention, you're a grown 54-year-old woman with all these different pro cards and all these titles. So this is how you want to represent the fitness and gym community? Not to mention, you're from a time where there were no phones in gyms and nobody was recording. Yet you think it's okay to treat people this way? I'm sorry, you don't own the gym. Just because you're recording doesn't mean everybody else has to stop their workout just for you. But hey, if you want to film somewhere where no one's going to walk through your video, build a home gym. Train there. Until then, you need to do better. Mind your own business.
Oh, let's go, Joey Swoll. That's what I'm talking about. I love it. He will come in and set anybody right and be like, listen, how about try not to suck? I love him. So I actually, at this point in my life, I don't want to do this anymore, but definitely at one point in my life, I was like, I used to get so mad about lack of gym etiquette that I was like, you know what? Someday I'm going to open my own gym, but it's going to be probably the only one in the world where when you sign up, you're going to have to sign a contract to agree to the gym etiquette. And if you don't do it, you get kicked out and like fined or something. So it would be like simple things that everybody should understand. Like, don't camp out on equipment. Like, if you have the place to yourself, knock yourself out. But like when it's busy, like you can't camp out for an hour or more on the cables when those are always in demand. Okay. Don't set up your stuff on a 2 machines, a bench, take a whole rack, use the cables, and then something. Like, just common courtesy and like be considerate that other people are there. Also, I can't stand it when people are like 2 people are talking to each other and one of them's just like casually, leaning on a piece of equipment, talking to his buddy, or like has his foot up on it. And so then someone needs to use it and they're just like, so then you have to interrupt the conversation, be like, oh, sorry, are you using that? Like, it's just like stuff like that. And I know people don't think about it or mean anything by it, but if they had to sign a contract, they would become aware of it and then maybe be more intentional in what they do and be considerate of other people. I also hate it when, obviously it's 2024 and almost everybody goes to the gym with some kind of headphones or earbuds or whatever. When you have your like music up max volume and you can still hear people, it's like, bro, come on. Like, I'm going to literally go deaf prematurely trying to drown out your conversation and I can still hear you. Like, I'll never forget this. This is probably like 8 years ago. And this probably shouldn't have even made me mad, but I just couldn't believe how ridiculous it was. So I used to go to the gym like super early. And there were these 2 guys that were always in there, and which is fine. Like, you know, studies have shown if you work out with a buddy or a partner, like you're more consistent. So that's good. Go with a buddy. But these 2 guys would always talk like so loud, and I would have my music up as loud as it could go. So I made the mistake of taking out my earbuds one time for like a minute. Okay. And this is what I overheard. They're literally talking about the beaver population in 2006. And I was just like, I don't believe this. So I've been working out, trying to stay away from you, trying to drown you out with my music. And that's the conversation you're having so loud that I had to hear. And like, why are you even talking about that? It wasn't even something like entertaining or important or anything. I was just like, this is why I have to have my ears covered at all times. So I wish people were considerate of that. Or some people get like that on their phones. For whatever reason, they go to the gym and they are always on the phone. I'm like, I feel like that would interfere with your workout, but whatever floats your boat. You know what? I'm glad you're working out. Good for you. I wanted to bring my dogs down here, but there's no way they'll like pull out wires and probably take down the broadcast. At some point I'll get them in here live so you guys can see them. I do have, so we have a St. Bernard named Olympus who is going to be 10 in January. And then we have a Basset Hound. His name is Stiglitz. I feel like I need to explain that. So if you've ever seen Inglourious Bastards, there's a character named Hugo Stiglitz, and my husband and I just thought, it's a funny character. Like, you should watch the movie and you'll see why. Anyway, so we named our dog Stiglitz. We usually call him Stig. But he's an idiot because he's a Basset Hound and I love him. He's very cute and sweet, but he sucks. And so, you know, when you have a particular, either like, you don't even have to have one or search for it. If you say things audibly, you know how your phone will start to send you targeted ads. Like, one time I thought about getting a new fridge and then suddenly there are fridges all over like my Facebook newsfeed and stuff. So because we've sent each other enough Basset Hound like things, my husband and I, it'll come up suggested. So he sent me this one day. And it's so funny because this happens to our Basset Hound all the time. He gets his lip stuck on his teeth. So watch this video. We're probably going to watch it twice because I can't.
It's stuck on my teeth. You think it looks weird, but I can't help it. Oh no. My lip just gets stuck on my teeth.
I love that someone made it into a song. Let's watch it one more time.
Sometimes my lips get stuck on my teeth. You think it looks weird, but I can't help it. Oh no. My lip just gets stuck on my teeth.
What an idiot. Gosh, those dogs are stupid. I actually feel bad for them because they suck as a breed. They're so cute and nice, but man, they are something else. Impossible to get trained. Very difficult, I'd say. Very needy. I don't even know what he wants all the time. But anyway, there's this too. Look at that. That is my dream. How many St. Bernard puppies is that in one place? Puppies. Look how I love them because they're so big yet so small at the same time. But I think whenever, I hate to think about this, but when Olympus goes, we're going to get a Bernese Mountain Dog. My husband wants a Great Dane, which I would also love, but I'm a sucker for big and fluffy. What else do I have? Mike Tyson. Yeah. Did you guys see that? Why were his cheeks out? You know who else's cheeks we saw recently on TV live? Derrick Henry. Dude, his pants like got pulled down. I don't even remember who they were playing. It wasn't this past weekend. I think it was like the one before. He got tackled and like the defender just like pulled down his pants and he's like still on the ground trying to pull him up. Don't go look for it if you didn't see it. Anyway, speaking of Mike Tyson, so this was like a while ago. Whoever his manager was, managing like his money when he was like fighting regularly, was apparently such an awful manager. I don't know if he was like embezzling, like stealing money from him, or was just awful at managing it. But he got Mike Tyson so far in debt that for the rest of Mike Tyson's life, he would have to pay the IRS everything he made because he was that far behind. So I just found out like today, the fight with Jake Paul, you know how everyone watched it and they're like, this wasn't a real fight. This sucked, like blah, blah, blah. If you watch at one point during the fight, they, you know how they kept like kind of like hugging each other. Apparently they planned this. Jake Paul knew about Mike Tyson's like financial situation. So by putting on this fight, Mike Tyson got enough money from the fight to be able to get out of his debt. And then I don't know if he has any left over or not. So they said something to each other one of those times when they were hugging. And then Mike Tyson like nodded, like tapped him on the head or whatever. So there was actually an agreement between them to do this fight and not make it real, because if they went the full number, it depended on the number of rounds. So if they went the full amount, they got the most money, or Mike Tyson would at least. So he actually did it to like help him out, which is actually really wholesome. So I know a lot of people hate Jake Paul and I get why, but all I'm going to say is he's definitely not as hateable as he used to be. And I think that that's a really, that's like a wholesome thing that I was like happy to hear that, because yeah, Mike Tyson's been a little weird, but you got to have respect for the guy. So how much time we have left? 8:37. I have not yet talked about the Lord Jesus Christ. So I do want to talk about, part of the purpose of this podcast is I'm going to talk about some news, some politics, some fitness, a lot of dogs. But I also want to talk about Jesus. And I am not a minister. Okay. I did not go to Bible school. I have zero credentials or whatever to like preach, but every Christian should be a witness and share their testimony. So I can't get into my full testimony. I feel like I would keep us here forever, but long story short, I grew up in church. My parents are amazing. They did like a perfect job with us. And I remember having like an emotional experience when I was like 13, and I ended up getting baptized, and I understood what I was doing at the time. But now that I look back, I don't think there had been any real repentance in my life. So I got baptized, but if you don't actually repent, then it doesn't mean anything. You're just a wet sinner, right? So there hadn't been an actual like repent, turn from your sin, ask Christ to come into your heart and you know, be forgiven and all that. So the baptism itself really didn't mean anything. But at 21, I went through my genuine repentance, like on my face, like I am going to die and go to hell. Lord, what do I need to do to be forgiven? I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So went through all that. And that was when I had a drinking problem, like for sure. Like I would say I was an alcoholic, because if you drink at like 7 a.m., 1 p.m., like pretty much every day, I literally one time was getting so hammered. I was like in the bathtub shaving my legs and I cut my leg open. And I have a picture of it. It's disgusting. Like what? Because I was like lit. It was like 1:30 in the afternoon. Why was I doing that? But I had a problem. So the Lord like tore that out by the root, thankfully, and have zero desire to touch. In fact, I have a short video of my pastor here. I absolutely love him, appreciate him so much. I found the best church, like the best. And I'll get into that in a minute, but watch this video with me real quick.
Growing up till my dad started drinking, then that fixed everything. But I've heard it the other way around. The Bible says wine is a mocker. So I've heard people say this. Nowhere in the Bible does it tell you not to drink. It just tells you not to get drunk. Did you buy a Bible that has the story of Samson ripped out? Because God told his mother, not make sure he never gets drunk, make sure strong drink never touches his lips. So that was a man that had received instruction to not have anything to do with alcohol. For what purpose? Because he was going to be used in the power of God. The Bible takes that same instruction over to the book of Ephesians and says, be not drunk with wine, because that'll ruin your life. But instead, be what? Filled with the Spirit, filled with the new wine. So the Bible separates what people are trying to get by alcohol. What happens when people drink? They feel tough, they feel bold, they feel relaxed, they feel joy. The alcohol is the devil's substitute for the new wine of the Holy Spirit.
Amen. So I'm super thankful that's out of my life. I have zero desire to touch it, and really nothing good comes out of it. So, ask yourself why, if you're not supposed to get to a certain point, why touch it at all? Like, and also this is something old Pentecostal preachers used to say this: when you go to bed every night, examine yourself and say, did I get closer to the Lord today or further from him today? So chances are, if you spent the day or that night drinking and you ask yourself that question, the answer is probably going to be, I got further away. So why do it? You know what I mean? Anyway, back to my testimony. So 21, go through my genuine repentance, right? Drinking's gone. Everything was good for a while. And then I started to become super disappointed with life. Like, things just seemed to not work out. I didn't know, I had no direction. What am I doing here? What do I want to do? What should I be doing? And so I ended up, then I moved and I lived alone, which I enjoyed living alone. So I'm not going to talk against that, but there is something to be said about isolation, which is what I did. I isolated myself. I stopped going to church. I wasn't reading my Bible. Next thing you know, I'm listening to so many lies from the devil about how much life sucks and how disappointing everyone is, and it's never going to get better. What's the point? And I wasn't suicidal, but I literally was just like, God, if this is like what life is going to be like, I don't even want to do it. It sucks. So that's definitely not a good place to be. So I was like that for, a little while. And then fast forward to, I had moved out of my apartment. And then shortly after that, I met my husband, and then things have been on the up since then. And I was getting like a little bit back into my Bible, but not to the extent that I used to read it, because I grew up like from the age of like 9 or 10, I was reading like every day. Like, I've read through the Bible, I don't even know how many times, like from Genesis to Revelation, like I've lost count. And so like I was reading a lot. So I kind of was picking it back up, but not really. So actually at the beginning of this year, I made a determination. All right, I'm going to read through the whole Bible again, start to finish. I'm starting Genesis 1. I'll finish up in Revelation at the end of December. And it's funny how the Bible, when it says it is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, that's true. That book is alive, because I made no other changes in my life besides just getting back into the Bible. And then one thing led to another. Without me even trying, I suddenly was hungry and thirsty for the truth and for a good church, because I hadn't been plugged in, And so I started searching for area churches, and I did not grow up Pentecostal. In fact, I grew up charismatic, but there is a difference. And I judged all Pentecostals by like the snake handlers. I was like, oh, those people are crazy. Like, all they do is just like wild, like weird emotional stuff. Like, I don't want to be part of that. But what I did not know is that I actually looked up Pentecostalism, and I was like, wow, as far as like the root of it, everything looks like really solid. And so then I found the church I found by just Googling certain churches in my area. And I happened to be up in like Coraopolis, PA at the time. And this one came up. So then I'm looking at the website, looking through the core beliefs. I'm like, everything looks good, blah, blah, blah. So it piqued my interest enough to go visit. And, the rest is rock and roll history, as you say. Like, I absolutely love it there. It is the first church I have ever been part of where every single week I have an encounter with God. I have grown so much in my faith this year. It's amazing the difference. My mindset, I have been a chronic pessimist all my life. Like, you could ask like my family, they probably know, like, been a pessimist. I'm like not even anymore. It's crazy how much it's changed. And this year has been, most people on paper would say has been like the worst year, at least for my husband and I, because he like didn't have a job the whole year. So it's been really tough. But for me, it's been the best year of my life. Like, it's been so many good changes. I don't even have time to get into all of it, but God is so good. And so for the first time, like I said, when I started on this topic, like, every Christian should be a witness and share their testimony, but I never like wanted to. I know that sounds bad, but I never was like, I want to like talk about Jesus. You know what I mean? I wasn't really like that. But that's completely changed where I do want to. And I don't feel called to ministry, but I do. The reason I started this podcast, part of it is because I do feel like I should be talking about him, give him praise and give him glory for everything that he's done in your life and the lives of others. And when you do see so many supernatural testimonies that just happen to other people, what does it make you do? It makes you give glory to God and say, wow, he's awesome. And I started highlighting in my Bible as I'm reading, pretty much every single time there was a miracle or a miraculous healing or deliverance or whatever, it says all the people were amazed and they glorified God. And I'm like, so these are the things that we should be looking for, because it makes people give glory to God. And if you read about T.L. Osborne, who had arguably the largest healing ministry of maybe anybody, he and his wife, they went to India. They wanted to, win the people for Christ because they didn't know anything about Christianity. And when they got there, they said they failed miserably because they couldn't convince them just from the Bible that it's the truth. And the Hindus were like, yeah, we have a holy book too. Like, we have all the same stuff, and they couldn't win them over. So they went home feeling absolutely defeated. And so they were like, God, what's up? Like, we're trying to do this for you. It didn't work. And so they were like, we're going to sit down. We're going to read through the New Testament like we've never read it before. Lord, just teach us, like, give us revelation on your word. So they did. And then there were like 3 encounters they had, just supernatural, like vision type things. And it completely transformed their ministry, where they then started to operate in the miraculous. And then they go back to India. And when people start getting healed supernaturally, all of a sudden the people are willing to listen. Who is this? You say this Jesus is alive. I guess so, because that person was crippled and now they're walking and all that stuff. And so that was what was able to get the people to accept the gospel and actually listen, when it's accompanied by signs and wonders, which is what you see throughout the book of Acts. So going back to my church, that's what I love about it so much, is they said, we have tried to, as best we can, create a church that you would have seen in the book of Acts. So again, I'm so thankful for it. I have grown so much. I can't wait to continue to grow. I am like so looking forward to what the future holds. I would not be doing this podcast had I not found that church, because I did go to broadcasting school, and then I was like, I can't go into the media. Like, that was like 2016 when I finished. And I was like, so if you tell me to go out and cover a story, but here's what we want you to say. Like, I know it happened that way, but here's the narrative. Here's what you're going to report. I'm like, that doesn't work for me. So I'd be fired the first day. So I was like, I can't go into the media, but doing a podcast, this is one good thing that came out of COVID. Not that podcasts weren't around before, but it changed things where you don't have to have a TV show. You don't have to be in the media. You can literally I'm in my basement right now. Like, you can do things in your house, and it doesn't mean anyone's watching or going to, but eventually maybe someone will, and you never know. Something you share might speak to somebody. So just start with what you have, and then God will give the growth. But you also can get information out that doesn't have to be filtered through the media, where they're going to control the narrative and make sure what they want goes out. But also, thank God for Elon Musk, because I genuinely do not think Trump would have won the election if Elon Musk didn't buy Twitter, X. And I also, I don't think there would be as many like conservative voices now, because everyone was getting censored. So then, and I wonder too, I was like, how is everyone so stupid after 2020? They were like, yeah, everything was fair and square. I was like, there's like Wisconsin, for example, 110% voter turnout. And you're telling me there's nothing to see there. That alone, you should say, we can't certify this because something's wrong. So I was like, how do people not know that? But I guess if all you do is watch the mainstream media, you genuinely think Trump is Hitler, and you think he just lies through his teeth about everything. You think all the people hate him. You think racism is a bigger issue than it is. You think that, whatever, all the crap that they're spewing. So I was like, that's why people are dumb, because that's all they watch. So thank God for X, where you can now speak freely and you won't get censored. And thank God for podcasts, because there are a lot of really decent people out there who started their own thing and have been able to get it out because they now have a place to go. Like I said, I may get kicked off YouTube. I may get kicked off Instagram, Facebook. If I do, at least I know I'm safe on X, and I'm thankful for that. But to get back to Jesus, I mentioned T.L. Osborne, who had a massive healing ministry. Now, the other person, and this person I have followed like most of my life, because he actually spoke at a little church my parents went to when I think they left when I was like 5. So I barely remember it, but I have followed his ministry. I have a handful of his books upstairs. His name is Mahesh Chavda, and he is someone I greatly admire. Massive healing ministry. And this guy fasted. Like, I'm talking, he did a 40-day fast every year, a 21, like some 10s and 5s. Like, he fasted all the time. Not normal. I think he was given a gift to be able to do it. But the Lord told him, because you've been faithful in this, I'll let you see great things. And he really did. There was a little boy in Africa raised from the dead. The death certificate's in one of his books. You can see it. And just tons of miraculous things that happened throughout his life. He's still alive. I think he's like 80 something. He has a church in Charlotte called All Nations Church. I did go to it one time about 10 years ago. But anyway, I brought him up because there's a video where he was on Sid Roth, and this was like in the late 90s, I think. So this is an older video. You're going to be able to tell when you watch it, but I want to play at least the first like 4 or 5 minutes of it, because he tells his story. He grew up I think they lived in Kenya. He was a Hindu, a very devout family. And then he got a hold of a New Testament, which I think he maybe says that in the video, a missionary had dropped it off because she stopped at his house for water. So he started reading it, and all of a sudden it completely changed everything. So he was hungry and thirsty for the truth. And then he got a hold of this. And then he had this super miraculous encounter that completely changed the rest of his life. And I love to watch this video. I actually, every time I watch it, maybe I'll not be able to cry because I'm on like a video, but I cry like every time I watch this, because it gives you a picture of what a perfect place God has prepared for us. And also just the nature of Jesus, and that he is love. Like, I mean, that's the best way to say it. So when people they're very resistant to Christianity. They're like, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to live by these rules and stuff. I'm like, you have no idea what you're missing. The purest form of love you'll ever know. And it's not like that. Nobody wants to, not that there aren't religious people that do want to force you rules down your neck, which is why you don't go to a church like that. Go to one like mine where everyone's awesome. But there is such a blessed life that you can have as a Christian. And if you were to just have an encounter with Jesus, and I'm not saying you're going to have anything like Mahesh had, I didn't, and I don't need it, but it just is a story, especially if you don't know anything about Christianity. Please listen to this, and I think it will maybe pique your interest. It makes me happy to listen to it. It may take a couple minutes for it to get started.
Has prayed for many people to have healing miracles, including the dead coming back to life. Next on this edition of It's Supernatural.
Centuries have come and gone, offering wisdom and understanding throughout the ages. Today, there should be nothing beyond one's power to discover, and yet, the strange, unusual, and mysterious world of the supernatural defies understanding. Stay tuned for a unique and powerful investigation into a curious, undiscovered universe only on It's Supernatural.
Hello, I'm Sid Roth, your investigative reporter. I have Mahesh Chavda here. Mahesh was raised as a Hindu and literally went to heaven. Now, Mahesh, help me out a little bit. Basically, what does a Hindu believe?
Well, he believes in reincarnation. They're very devout. They believe in many gods. And they believe in the philosophy of karma, that what you do, on earth, you pay for it one way or the other. If you're good, you come back on a higher incarnation.
Now, do you come back sometimes as an animal? Is that
you
the belief?
Yes,
you can.
if you're really bad.
How about cows? I know they regard cows as being very holy in India.
Yeah, that's right. It's just the whole tradition for centuries has been to really honor cows.
Did you ever have steak as a Hindu?
No.
No.
No. Absolutely not. My mother was very, very devout.
Well, how did a devout Hindu become a believer in Jesus?
Well, I was really hungry for reality, Sid. And even though I was brought up in this very precious family, I remember my early memories of my mother getting up at 5, worshiping at this shrine, and then all the children would come and worship at our shrine in our home before we went to school. So we were raised up really to honor our traditions. But I was just hungry for reality. I knew there was something more. I could not sense any reality in all of the things that were involved with Hinduism. So I remember my early memories. I would go to the temple and cry out for some kind of answers. I would talk with the priests and bow to the idols, and yet I couldn't get any answers. I remember walking out of this temple one time and looking up at the sky saying, God, I know you're somewhere out there. Where are you? And it happened around the age of 16 that there was a knock on our door. We were living in Mombasa, Kenya at that time. And there was the wife of a missionary who had been doing some programs for some children in the neighborhood, and she was thirsty for water. She asked for a drink, and I gave her a glass of water, and in return, she gave me a little Bible, and I started reading it. And I came across this unique personality named Jesus Christ. I didn't know about him, and yet as I read, it just became very real to me. And the words he said became powerful words, just coming at me with fire. Especially in John 14, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except by me. And my Hindu traditions rose up and said, no, you have your own ways. But I knew I was being confronted by the reality of who Jesus was.
What happened next?
Well, for months, some of these words would just come after me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except by me. And other words that I read in scriptures, they just kept coming at me. And so one night I remember I said, I'm not going to think about this anymore. I'm not going to read this Bible anymore. It seems to be chasing after me. And I remember very clearly, it was 9 o'clock one evening in this hot equatorial climate, mosquitoes all around me and buzzing, and I was knocked unconscious at 9 o'clock at night.
Who knocked you unconscious?
Later on, I found it was the power of God. At that time, I didn't know.
Huh.
And my head hit the table. I heard this bang, and part of my consciousness said, that's my head hitting the table. And yet in my conscious being was taken to another place that was just full of joy and the most perfect delight. It's hard to describe in human language the pure ecstasy that I experienced being in this place where I found myself, walking on streets of gold, and I saw grass around me in different places, but it was like every blade of grass was alive, and it was singing to some kind of harmonies that I could sense them, and then I heard this most glorious singing coming, music that penetrated every cell of my being.
Have you ever heard music on earth like that music?
Nothing.
Have you ever seen colors on earth like those colors?
No, never. Those are just perfect colors, as if they had never been hit by any kind of impurities. And then there was light all around. And then the light started thickening, and from this one particular direction. And this was living light. It's difficult to describe how the light was alive. It was more brighter than sun, more purer than sunlight. And each of these beams of light, there was some kind of energy in it that was living. And it seemed like they had a message in it. Each beam of light would hit me. And just think of yourself being hit by millions of beams of light, and each of them had a message in it.
Were you experiencing any fear? I mean, this is a strange experience.
It was, I would say, what we would use the term awesome. And complete delight. Ecstasy is the purest term I can find in English to describe it.
Would you rather be there than here?
Absolutely. That's one thing. And I found later that what I had was an experience of being taken to heaven. And I have no fear of dying because of that experience, because I have experienced heaven and the ecstasy that's waiting for us there. And in that light then, this living light, each of these beams saying to me in one way or the other, I love you, I love you, I love you. And then,
had you ever experienced that kind of love?
Absolutely nothing like that, never. It was just...
I mean, there's a love of a mother for a child. There's a love of a wife for a husband. There's a love of friends. How would you classify that love compared to those loves?
It does not compare. They're like small imitations of this highest and purest love that I experienced. And that was in this person. Behind that light was this person. And I saw him, and it was Jesus Christ.
Did he tell you? Did you know it was him?
I knew instantly.
You knew?
In the realm of, I knew. And I knew that he was the one who loved me the most in the universe.
Did he say anything to you?
Yeah, he came towards me. And much of it was just totally understood. His total love for me. Being around me, I knew that he had died for my sins, that he loved me.
How did he love?
It was just, love is the main thing I can describe about. And
I know this may be mundane, but what color was his hair? Was he a big man?
He looked a lot like what we see in pictures. And yet, for me, what I remember most was the beams of living light coming out of him. I think the disciples experienced it when they went to the mountaintop and saw him transfigured, and a being of light, total light, was in him. And I saw the glory, what the Hebrews call the Shekinah, and experienced him. And then he came and laid his hands on my shoulder and said, my little brother. And I know I was in love, that I knew I loved this man the most. And I experienced many things in that. Felt like I was being transformed. And then around 5 o'clock in the morning, I heard a rooster crowing, and I woke up, and it was as if I had, I love Star Trek, and it was like I had been beamed down again from this place where I had been. And I knew I had experienced Jesus.
But Mahesh, what?
Okay, so that's basically the story, and he does go on. If you want to watch the rest of that interview, the whole thing's interesting. Just type into YouTube Mahesh Chavda seeing Jesus, and if you can't find it, type in Sid Roth, and it should come up. It's from like 97 or 99. I just figured out I am not live on X. I'll figure out why next time. Instagram dropped me after an hour, so 2 minutes ago, which that's okay. If I do want to be able to keep the whole thing, I understand I just have to keep it within an hour. I am about to wrap up, but a real quick note on what he said, how it was 9 o'clock at night when he had his encounter of going to heaven, and then it's 5 a.m. when he finds himself back at his desk. So I want to segue into episode 2. I want you to think about that. Someone that is gone, missing in real time, right? What is that? 8 hours? You're one place, you're somewhere else, and then you come back. Gone, missing in real time. So just keep that in mind, because what we talk about in episode 2 is going to be super interesting. Let me throw this up for contact. If you're not already following on these platforms, please do. Also, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, I'm all ears. That is the email address to reach me. Of course, any of the DMs will work on those ones as well. I will get this posted to Facebook and X because apparently it didn't go live. And then there's that. If you want to make a donation, thank you. God bless you. Also, if you have some kind of business and you would like to be a sponsor, obviously, I don't really have an audience yet, but it will grow. So if you want to be a sponsor, send me an email or a message and we can talk about it. Anyway, thank you so much. I think it's been a successful episode 1. Again, I'm brand new at it. I will try to make sure that it goes live on X next time. But aside from that, at least I think Instagram was good. And then YouTube looks like it's good too. So if they didn't kick me off. Thank you for all of you watching, for the comments. I love you. I'll see you in episode 2.